Let's talk about how to manage your rosacea. I'm Rose. I've got two different types of rosacea. I was diagnosed 6 years ago and I've been writing about it ever since. And this is a feature I wrote for Harper's Bazaar last week that includes interviews with dermatologists, loads of expert tips and tricks. So I thought we could go into essentially all of the background behind the piece. Now, this is a bit of an unusual one for me. I don't think I've done one like this before. Basically, I pitched a rosacea feature to Harper's Bazaar, and the editor, Bridget, came back to me and said, listen, we'd love you to do a piece, but we actually wrote something back in lockdown about rosacea that had some kind of not so relevant pieces of information in it now. Like, a lot of it was about how to manage your skin with mask wearing and things like that. So she asked me to freshen it up and then give kind of first person anecdotes along the way. So I want to point out from the top that all of the interviews in this piece were from the original feature, and all of those were done by Roberta Schroeder. And if it was me, I'd be like, why are you taking credit for all of my interviews? So credit where it's due. She essentially is a co-author of this with me. Okay, we're back on task. Justice for Roberta. This is what the feature includes. Essentially, through the feature, we broke it into loads of different subheadings. So what is rosacea? What are the different types of rosacea? And I feel like whether you are new to your diagnosis, whether you have redness and you're wondering whether you've got rosacea or not, whether you're years down the line, you will find things in this piece that are going to be really helpful. The what is rosacea is something that is a really interesting one, because all sorts of things can cause you to have redness in your skin, but actually rosacea is slightly different. And the redness presents in one of 4 different ways. And it's not just a little bit of redness now and then. It can be persistent flushing. It can be redness and texture. It can be a thickened skin. It can be irritation of the eyes. These are all things that help you to understand what is not just a bit of redness and what is actually a medical condition called rosacea. That little monologue has essentially taken me down the path of what are the different types of rosacea. And for the record, I have type 1, which is the persistent flushing of the skin, and type 2, which is the texture that can sometimes be confused with acne. One of the things we discuss is what causes rosacea, and I'm just bracing myself for my comments section. As someone that speaks about rosacea a lot, this is something that is widely contested. What I will say about myself is that I personally choose to approach rosacea from the perspective of speaking to consultant dermatologists. That's who I choose to get my info from. I like to follow science-led methods for managing it, things that you have clinical evidence that work to manage rosacea, I believe in. I remember having a conversation with Dr. Emma Wedgeworth once, and I said I often see things online from well-meaning people that will say, you know, whip a few egg whites together and mix it with a bit of yogurt and use it as a face mask. There is no scientific evidence that those kinds of things work. And equally, people will always find a way to blame you for your own rosacea. You've done this, you've not eaten the right thing, you've not done that, you've not done this. I can categorically say I take so many steps to care for myself and my skin, and I speak to other people all the time that do so. The truth is, there is no conclusive answer to this, and as Dr. Justine, one of my favourite derms, said, it's a mixture of a lot of things. We also touch on triggers, and I think once you identify what triggers your rosacea, and what I mean by that is what makes your skin a bit more red or a bit more textured or exacerbates the symptoms, when you know what those are for you, you can just be mindful of those in your everyday life. Now, for example, these are all things, by the way, that the derms confirmed. So I know that a lot of the time through this feature, Roberta had spoken to Dr. Alexis Granite. She'd spoken to Dr. Annalie Marto. Triggers can often include things like spicy food. There's a plane going past, excuse me. Spicy food, cold temperatures, hot temperatures, maybe alcoholic drinks, maybe hot drinks. There's all these different things it can be. I'm not saying never have those again. Go and live your life, have fun. Don't let this take control. However, what I am saying is, like, if you've got your best friend's wedding the next day and you know that spicy food is one of your triggers, potentially don't order a curry the night before. Like, there's a way to be mindful of this information without letting it completely control you and dictate what you want to do. And this was one of my favourite sections: is it acne or is it rosacea? As someone that thought I had a few spots before I was diagnosed, it's really important to know that the way you would treat acne is completely different than the way you would treat rosacea. So things that people often use to reduce the appearance of acne would include the likes of retinol, maybe exfoliants like AHAs, for example. All of these things are going to be great in that environment, whereas for a rosacea prone skin, you will know that that texture is rosacea rather than acne, because acne tends to come to a head, like a white head or a black head, whereas a rosacea texture tends not to have a head, it's just inflammation. And so those kinds of ingredients can drive it around the bend altogether. On a side note, I wrote a feature for British Vogue. If you just type my name into the Vogue website, I wrote one about how if you want to use retinol or more active ingredients, you can use them with rosacea, but there's ways to do it. And again, that feature had loads of different suggestions from consultant dermatologists. So I'm not saying never use it. I'm just saying in the wrong hands, in the wrong environment, that can be more of a detriment than a positive thing. So then we moved on to a couple of things. Essentially, how can you treat rosacea at home, and what would you really need kind of further attention for, things like treatments like lasers? One thing I'm really passionate to tell you is that there is so much that you can do at home. There's so many steps you can take that don't cost you any money, but a lot of this can really, really be managed in your own hands. The first thing is simplify your routine. Strip it right back, keep it really simple. Here are a few of the products I recommended. The Tolerian Derma Cleanser is a cream cleanser. It will remove all your makeup, I promise. You know me, I like wearing loads of makeup, so all this gentle malarkey is like, that's great and everything, but is it going to get my face off? And this will. I have recommended this so much over the years that, as with anything, everyone's always got an opinion. I will sometimes hear people say that this is too much for them or causes them irritation in some way. I'll be really honest with you, I've spoken to so many consultant dermatologists over the years that have recommended this. If you are someone that is at a point that this is an irritating cleanser for you, that would definitely be an indication that it would be best to speak to a medical professional, because this is one of their safe places that they recommend for everyone. I've spoken about makeup actually, but whether you wear makeup or not, this is just a gentle way to remove the dirt and grime from the day, remove your SPF. This should in theory be very comfortable for you to keep your skin clean and healthy. Now this Aven SPF was in the original lineup, and I decided to keep this particular one in there because a load of the Harper's girls had recommended it too. Aven in general, as with La Roche-Posay, you can't go wrong if you've got rosacea. Loads of brilliant options. I included the Inky List Azelaic acid. This is a 10% strength. It's readily available, like you can just go into the shop and buy it. However, what I will say is azelaic acid is one of my favourite ingredients to manage the texture and inflammation that can come with rosacea. You can get it stronger on a prescription, which you may wish to explore if your rosacea is a little bit more advanced. But for now, as a general everyday staple, this is fantastic. And then the Vichy Mineral 89 Moisturiser. You can use this twice a day. This is one of my favourite products I've ever used. It's a really simple, gentle moisturiser. It is very hydrating, but there are very minimal ingredients in here, so it's not likely to cause any irritation. I've used this for such a long while. I've gone through so many jars of it, and it's one of those, a bit like the Derma Cleanser. I would just have no qualms whatsoever in recommending this to you. I really think it will suit absolutely everyone. Right, I know I've been harping on for ages and basically giving you all these spoilers, but I'm not going to show you all the tips for managing your skin at home, because if you could please do me a huge favour, this feature is free to read. Please just click onto Harper's Bazaar UK and read it for me, because the more you would read this, it sends a message to them that the feature went well and that you enjoyed it, and then they'll have me back. So I'm going to kindly shuffle you over there for all of those tips. And we also spoke about the options to treat rosacea professionally. So in some instances, for example, if you notice thread veins in the skin, that isn't something that any cream is going to target. That's something that you can have a professional treatment for if you wish to reduce the appearance of it. On the other hand, the likes of antibiotics, for example, I will just speak from personal experience. This is something that comes up a lot and people want to know my opinion on. I'm not a medical professional. I haven't had your one-to-one with you. That is a conversation for you to have with your doctor. I'm not in a position to be distributing medical advice. I've personally never had them for my rosacea, and I've personally spoken to an awful lot of consultant dermatologists over the years that seem to have different roadmaps. There's so many ways you can manage your skin basically without necessarily needing those. Again, totally up to you, and that is a discussion for you to have with your medical practitioner. But as I understand it from those conversations, this isn't an absolute essential part of your routine if you want to get a handle on your symptoms and your rosacea. And speaking of managing your symptoms, if there's one section I want you to read, it's this bit about the Boots Online Doctor, Skin and Me, Clearer. These are all ways that you can access prescription strength ingredients at home. But above all, to conclude this video, to conclude this piece, the main thing that I want you to take away from anything you read or investigate about rosacea, you can reduce the appearance of it, you can manage it at home. I know it's a bit of a ball ache when you figure out that you've got it. There's so much you can do to reduce the appearance of it. I sometimes on TikTok, if I'm talking about redness, sometimes I'll see comments and people will go, she doesn't even have redness, she this, she that. And I think, you know, it's the hugest compliment because I follow all the steps that I'm always trying to encourage other people to follow. And that means that I can keep my skin as calm as possible a lot of the time. But please do me a huge favour if you enjoyed this. Go and read the Harper's piece. It's free to read. Please feel free to leave any feedback of anything else you want me to discuss, and please just remember, this redness, you can get a handle on it and you can feel a lot better in your skin. Also, a big thank you to Bridget for having me in the first place. That was my first ever Harper's feature, so I'm over the moon. And thank you, Roberta, for letting me co-author with you. I absolutely loved it.